Welcome back to the Stargazers channel and another deep dive into the best jobs for each zodiac sign.
Hello, everyone. Today we're tackling a sign known for its intensity.
That's right. We've got some fascinating source material here, looking at career paths through a very specific lens.
We're exploring potential jobs, yeah, but using astrology specifically, the Scorpio career horoscope.
The article we're diving into focuses just on that. It breaks down what it considers key Scorpio traits.
And then tries to link those traits to certain jobs. Really interesting approach.
So our mission today is basically to unpack what this source says. We'll look at the personality traits, the work characteristics it attributes to Scorpios.
And try to understand the why behind it. Why does the article suggest these specific careers? It's about getting that perspective from the source.
Okay, let's get into it. The source starts with the basics, the astrological foundation for Scorpio.
Right. It says Scorpio is the 8th sign, comes from the constellation Scorpius. It's a fixed water sign.
Fixed water. And it covers people born between, October 23rd and November 21st?
It's the time frame mentioned, yeah. And it highlights the ruling planets, too.
Ah, yes. Pluto often linked to the underworld, transformation, that kind of thing.
And Mars, planet of war, action, drive. The source explicitly connects these, suggesting, their influence shows up in Scorpio traits. Hints at intensity right away.
Definitely feels intense. So what are the core personality traits the source lays out?
Well, it describes them as passionate, really intense characters who often enjoy, power and success.
Okay, power and success. And confident, too.
Very confident in their knowledge, their capabilities. And interestingly, the source says they often see themselves as advisors, protectors even.
Protectors, it's interesting. Paired with persistence, I imagine?
Absolutely. The source uses words like relentless when they're pursuing something. It even says they seek success at all costs.
Wow. So unafraid to go after what they feel they deserve. Confident, self-assured.
Yeah, that picture comes through strongly, but there's also charm mentioned.
Charm, like winning people over.
Apparently, yeah, even potential enemies. But, and this is a big but in the source, they don't easily forget or forgive. Hold on to things.
But the flip side of that coin
is loyalty. The source says they're fiercely loyal and protective of the people they, love or care about. So it's quite a mix.
It really is. So how does the source say this translates into the workplace? For you listening, maybe you're a Scorpio or no one, does this start to ring any bells about how they approach work?
That's always the interesting part, comparing these descriptions to reality. The article says, at work, Scorpios are described as incredibly focused, driven, dedicated.
Driven, dedicated.
And it suggests they're not afraid to use their strengths, even that charisma, unscrupulously sometimes, to get ahead or achieve their goals.
Okay, so that charm comes up again. Good conversationalist, but there was something about working alone.
Yes, exactly. While they can be good team players, the source emphasizes they often prefer handling the bulk of their tasks solo.
Right, that preference for autonomy, for being in charge of their own stuff.
Seems key, yeah. The article says they like being responsible for their assignments and getting individual praise or recognition.
Yes, and strategic thinkers. Curious.
Fearlessly curious is the phrase used. They apparently enjoy the challenge of really difficult problems, navigating complexity.
And they stick with it.
Oh, yeah. The source stresses their determination. They'll work until they succeed, rarely admit defeat. It's like the difficulty itself and the reward of overcoming it really spurs them on.
But that intensity, can it cause problems with colleagues?
It seems so. The source notes they can clash with people they see as lacking vision or, drive. Easily frustrated if others aren't pulling their weight.
I can see that. What about learning? Are they learners?
Big time, according to the source. A real thirst for knowledge, enjoy new challenges, picking up new skills.
So that leans them towards certain types of tasks.
Definitely. The source argues they're well suited to analytical, detail-oriented work. Maybe less suited, it suggests, to purely creative fields.
More methodical, analytical.
Exactly. And they seem to prefer work where they can see tangible results, actual improvements in their sector or field.
Okay, tangible results. Now, the source also mentioned something called the Scorpio midheaven. What's that about?
Right, the midheaven, or MC. The source explains it's a point in the astrology chart, the cusp of the 10th house.
And the 10th house relates to?
Career, public image, reputation, professional goals, all that public-facing stuff.
So if someone has a Scorpio midheaven, the idea is that these Scorpio traits heavily influence their career and how people see them professionally.
That's the idea presented in the source, yeah. It suggests this placement brings a really magnetic, intense drive to their work life. That transformative energy we talked about, it fuels their professional pursuits.
And it draws them to certain kinds of professions.
Apparently so. Things that require digging deep, uncovering hidden truths, understanding complex psychology, probing beneath the surface.
Okay, so what kind of jobs does the source link to that midheaven placement?
Well, because of that tenacity and perception, it mentions things like skilled detectives, psychologists, researchers, even more esoteric paths like occultists are listed.
Detectives, psychologists. That fits the digging deep idea.
Yeah, and it also mentions thriving in roles managing power dynamics, navigating tricky situations with a sharp understanding of what makes people tick. Intense approach, often leading to big transformations, the source says.
But it's not inherently good or bad, right? The source clarified that.
Exactly. The FAQ section points out it's about the potential energy and how it's used. Tendencies, not guarantees, which is a good reminder before we get into the specific job list.
The top 10 careers the source recommends for Scorpios, based on all these traits.
Yep. The article tries to connect the dots. Here are the traits, so here's why this job might fit.
All right, let's walk through them. Number 1 on the list.
Researcher.
Okay, researcher. Why?
The source links it straight to that practical, analytical mindset. Research needs meticulous detail, deep examination of problems, handling data, presenting findings.
And the tangible results thing.
Yeah, the source suggests they find it fulfilling when the research leads to actual improvements, technical, medical, social, whatever. That drive for breakthroughs fits well.
Makes sense. Number 2.
Engineer.
Applying analysis to practical problems.
Exactly. Solving things by analyzing systems, processes. Appeals to that inquisitive, curious nature the source described. They like having a concrete problem to tackle, showing off their knowledge.
And engineering often has very visible result, buildings, machines.
Right, that tangible output, that improvement. The source says Scorpios appreciate that. It suggests they lean towards the mathematical, methodical side of it. Logical problem solving.
Okay. Number 3 on the sources list.
Financial advisor or accountant.
Money management. Why Scorpios?
The source points to their perceived strength and strategic thinking with finances. Good long-term planners, good at anticipating potential problems.
And the detail work. Budgets, records.
Fits perfectly with their reported eye for detail and stamina for digging through data. Plus, the source notes they enjoy achieving goals, financial goals included. Helping others reach theirs can be satisfying too.
Okay. Next up.
Market analyst.
Market analyst, trying to figure out why people buy things.
Pretty much. The source says it suits a methodical mind, understanding the drivers behind consumer choices, figuring out the why, turning that into predictions.
So it's like problem solving for businesses.
Yeah.
Helping them succeed in the market.
Yeah, that's the angle. And the source suggests it's a good balance. You're analyzing people and trends, which tacks into that investigative side, but maybe from a bit of a distance, plus some client interaction.
Interesting balance. Number 5.
Psychologist or psychiatrist.
Okay, this seems like a direct fit for the probing beneath the surface idea.
Totally. The source says it appeals directly to that curious, methodical, problem-solving nature. The satisfaction of piecing together clues from someone's history, figuring out impacts.
The desire to investigate again?
Right. And it offers chances for research and having a direct positive impact. The source also brings up that ability to detach again.
Suggesting it makes for a focused professional therapist.
That's the idea presented, yeah.
That detachment theme continues with number 6, doesn't it? Surgeon or medical examiner.
It really does. The source emphasizes performing complex tasks without getting overwhelmed by emotion, needing a super methodical approach, nerves of steel.
It mentioned an iron shield.
Yeah, like a way to handle emotionally charged or, frankly, confronting situations. It protects them, allows them to function effectively.
And it connects to that drive to succeed too. High stakes, demanding goals.
Exactly. Inner strength, perseverance. The source paints them as intense, driven, efficient, meticulous in these kinds of roles.
Okay, number 7.
Auditor.
Auditor. Lots of detail, right? Checking financials, compliance.
Yep. Needs huge attention to detail, stamina for sifting through data, seeing maybe dull tasks through. The source says they're good with calculations, enjoy numbers.
So detail-oriented, but also ambitious.
The source suggests a balance. They're good with the nitty-gritty technical stuff, but still focused on the bigger picture, ambitious. And again, liking independent work fits. It connects this to similar stats-heavy roles like accounting, or insurance brokering.
Gotcha. Number 8,
Pharmacist.
pharmacist. How does that fit the Scorpio profile according to the source?
It sees it as a good blend. There's human contact, advising patients, explaining medications.
Right, the communication part.
But also a lot of focused, independent scientific work. It's respected, requires major focus and attention to detail. Classic Scorpio strengths, according to the article. Blending medical knowledge and interpersonal skills.
Okay, interesting mix. Number 9,
Chemist or scientist.
back to the lab.
Yeah, the source sees this as a natural fit for their scientific side, loving analytical challenges,
Right.
problem solving, perseverance, understanding how things work at a fundamental level.
Like figuring out reactions, explaining weird results.
Exactly. Needs commitment, focus for lab time. The source even mentions their ability to be single-minded can be a plus for really niche, difficult challenges, and it's often fairly solitary work.
Which appeals to that focused, private nature described earlier.
Seems to be the connection made. Plus, the source hints at the appeal of individual discovery, getting credit for breakthroughs, maybe even a feeling of controlling the elements, fitting with those grander ambition.
Master of the elements. Wow. Okay, and finally, number 10. The source called this one the ideal career.
It did. Detective.
Detective. I can see how that pulls a lot of these threads together.
Absolutely. The source says it directly taps into that innate curiosity, the drive to investigate, to solve complex puzzles, focus, dedication to crack a case.
And the detachment is useful again, dealing with tough situations.
Seen as very valuable, yes. Plus, skilled at quiet, discreet observation, dedicated to gathering facts meticulously.
And potential for recognition, solving cases, promotions.
That's mentioned. And maybe controversially, the source suggests a penchant for justice, or maybe even revenge, could fuel their drive here.
Revenge. That's intense.
It is, but the overall picture is meticulous, dedicated, detail-oriented, driven to piece things together and solve the crime.
So that's the top 10 list from the source, with its reasoning. Quite specific.
Very specific, but the source's FAQ section does add important nuance.
Right, the disclaimer part.
Kind of, yeah. It stresses that your career success isn't just about your zodiac sign. So many other things matter. Your choices, your efforts, skills, education, opportunities, just life circumstances.
Crucial point. This is just one lens. Did the FAQ mention other general Scorpio qualities relevant to careers?
It did. Things we've touched on, but listed again. Determination, resourcefulness, intuition, emotional resilience, those research skills, leadership potential, passion, even creativity, though maybe less emphasized for career and privacy or discretion.
And based on those, it suggested broader career areas.
Yeah, categories like investigation and law enforcement obviously fits detective. Psychology counseling, healthcare surgeon, ME fit there. Creative arts, entrepreneurship, finance investment, scientific research, crisis management, leadership roles.
So some overlap with the top 10, but also opening it up a bit wider.
Exactly, broader fields where those traits might play out.
Okay, so wrapping this up for you, the listener. This deep dive was really about exploring this specific source and its take on Scorpio career paths through astrology.
And it's important to remember, as the source itself implies, this isn't science. It's not the only way to choose a career. Far from it.
But, thinking about the links the article makes between certain traits and certain jobs can be, well, interesting. Thought-provoking. Whether you're a Scorpio or not, whether you buy into astrology or not.
It might just spark an idea or give you a different way to think about skills you already have or interests you want to pursue. The source kind of positions it as maybe one tool for self-reflection, something to use alongside more traditional career research.
Yeah, one piece of a much larger puzzle.
Definitely.
All right, that brings us to the end of this particular deep dive, looking at the Scorpio career horoscope according to our source material. We've unpacked the traits it highlights and the logic it uses to suggest jobs like researcher, engineer, detective, and the others.
And hopefully we've been clear that this is based on the astrological interpretations presented in that source.
So here's a final thought to leave you with, inspired by this discussion. If we accept the idea, just for a moment, that things like astrological signs might point to certain innate tendencies, how could simply becoming more aware of and intentionally using our own natural inclinations, whatever we perceive them to be, regardless of their origin, help us find work that feels more, well, fulfilling? What traits do you feel drawn to using in your professional life?
Something to chew on. For personalized readings, check out the link in the description. Thanks for tuning in to The Stargazers. Until next time, take care.